And so that could be what it is.
Okay.
All right, here we go. We are, okay, I believe we are officially live. So everyone, officially welcome to the live stream with Shane from Lever Monkey, finally in the flesh, actually on the screen with us, because we worked out all of our technical issues. So just really quick, Shane, go ahead and say hello, and let's verify that your audio is working the way that it should.
All right. Hello, Lever Monkey here. Testing. You guys hear me? Everything looking good?
Everything is looking fine on my end. I'm showing the audio's passing through, but if you guys wouldn't mind verifying in the comments, let us know if our audio is working well. So Shane, how was your week?
Week was all right. We got a little rainstorm. We had some mechanical problems with a hammer and excavator. Had more problems with two rental companies fighting with each other that happened to be the same company. So good times.
Yeah, that's always fantastic when you have companies arguing over you while you're just trying to get work done. That's really frustrating. So our viewers just totally dried up. We just went to it. According to YouTube, we have 0 viewers. So I don't know what's going on right now.
Yeah, okay. Watching
are you viewing on your screen?
I am now.
Okay.
It just went live. Well, I think what's going on is there's a commercial that happened.
Oh, that could be. I didn't think about that. I don't know. I'm not usually on that side of the screen for these. I'm on this side of the screen, so I don't. And I just now I've got 3 playbacks showing. Now we got to now we've got a viewer.
Yeah, I see one popping in. Brandon Coupler says, "Hi, guys."
Culpepper. Yeah, what's happening, Brandon? How are you, sir? Will you verify for us, Brandon, that you can hear Shane fine and his audio's coming through and matches my level roughly? Because that's my only thing that I haven't really done yet. Is, you know, everything else has been verified, other than I can't really verify the 2 of us having matching audio levels. But yeah,
I can unmute my end and see if it's working or not.
You can give it a shot. I'm hoping one of these guys will confirm here in just a second. So, yeah. Well, I guess I could pop it up too, for that matter. Oh, I want to go here and here and here. Yeah, that's right, Brandon. I'd love to bounce around in a loader and cause thousands of dollars of damage because I don't know what I'm doing. So Brandon sent me a video this week of someone who's clearly new to operating. It looked like he was in a Komatsu, like WA320 or something. And he's got like a bunk of plywood or something he goes into, raises it way up there. It's too heavy for the machine. So the machine stands on its nose and the guy panics. And instead of lowering the boom down, he backs out of the load, and as he backs out, the loader slams back down to the point that all 4 wheels come off of the ground. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, that was I can't believe that. Honestly, I can't believe he didn't break anything on the loader with how hard he slammed down, let alone his back.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy video. Merrick, just checking in. We are on vacation. Hope everything's going well. Hey, I hear you, Merrick. You should peace out and you should go enjoy the vacation with your wife. And yeah, what are you doing here, man? You're going to get yourself into trouble. But I appreciate you showing up to say hi. So Merrick is actually from about right around 4 hours south of me here. And he's driving through the area here in a couple of weeks, isn't it, Merrick? Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And he's going to pop in. We're going to have lunch together. I'm quite excited about that.
That's cool.
So, yeah. What job are you working on this week, Shane? What do you got cooking?
Same project. It's we've got less than 300 feet to go. So, and it's been a rough 300 feet. I got a video up of basically Thursday, working in the woods and stuff like that, how tight it is. Pull the bucket up, go underneath a tree, go over a bush, swing over a fence, dip it back down, come back up, and put it in a truck.
Those are such miserable jobs.
Yeah.
Absolutely miserable jobs.
So yeah, it's just like, okay, why couldn't we have just wiped out one more tree or something, or take one more fence panel down and just make this so much easier?
Easy.
Yeah, no. Let's see how difficult we can make this on the operator.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't even bring pipe into where I'm at. So we had to have the loader bring it in on the back end, then another excavator tracked it up forward as far as he could go, and then I tracked up over the ditch, grabbed like 3 sticks of pipe and placed them behind me so I can then put them in later.
Ugh, that's miserable.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of reverb on Shane. Let me see. Boy, oh, you know what? Hang on a second here. I think I might have figured something out here, guys.
Broadcasting my sound twice.
No, I think it's coming through twice, because here we go. We're gonna back this down. Try talking now, Shane.
All right. Do the test.
Hey, there we go. I think that's gonna clean it right up, guys. I had the source coming through twice on my end. I apologize. Still a YouTube rookie here. Let's see how that does. Thank you, by the way, Jason, for pointing that out to me. I really appreciate that. So so how are you actually moving the pipe around? And I apologize, Shane. I'm not a very good YouTube friend. I haven't watched your video from this week.
That's fine. I've actually had some extra time this week because we've been doing 8-hour days, just through situational stuff. I've had a couple of 10-hour days, but most of it was 8 hours, so I had time to watch your videos and comment.
Hey,
so.
I appreciate that. I do. I'm not being a good YouTube friend right now because I'm so swamped, but
no, I know you're out of town and stuff. Jason says sounds perfect. So
awesome. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
So yeah, it's just we're strapping the pipe with a 10-foot or 12-foot strap, and then I put a chain hook, a double-ended hook on my rig, pick it up, swing it in, and let's put it in.
So you've got the clearance that you can swing with a piece of pipe dangling?
Yeah. Sometimes I gotta back up and boom straight out with it and try to track without bouncing it all over the place.
I hate jobs like that. I hate it. So Rick and I are working on a job this week. We're gonna go in. We've got an engineered septic field we're putting in. We're digging a basement and putting in a driveway. And the really cool thing is, I don't know, are you familiar with iDig at all, Shane?
iDig? No, not with that.
It's a French company that has recently broken into the American market. It's an indicate-only machine control system. And the really cool thing is it's under 15 grand to get into a full machine setup. Like I said, it's indicate only, so you don't actually interface with the hydraulics or the electronics of the machine. But the cool thing is this whole system, I went out with the guy today to install it on the machine. You can install all of the hardware onto the machine in about 45 minutes, and then it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to actually calibrate all of the sensors. And then you are 100% ready to rock with 2D machine control, or you've got a grade laser capture. And so we got that set up, and they're letting us test that system for free all week on this job. So that's actually pretty exciting. That's a really cool system. We're gonna put it through its paces and test it in real world working conditions, and give it a good shot this week. So that's pretty exciting. That's gonna be fun.
That's not GPS or anything though?
No. So GPS as we know it in our world is technically called 3D machine control.
Yes.
And this is only a 2D system. So you've got your regular slope, and then you've got the ability to do a cross slope. But again, this is indicate only, so there's no overdig protection or anything. You're at the mercy of your skill set to follow the light bar on it. So it's kind of like the old cat grade systems, the old Trimble systems, where they actually had the physical light bar strips. This has got a single light bar strip in front of you that's got both a vertical component and a horizontal component if you choose to use your cross slope or measurements towards the machine. So it's a cool system. So Phil, what's happening? Phil's my friend from Australia that's always in here. So he always shows up. It's awesome. I appreciate it.
That's cool. No, yeah. That's really cool. Back in '93, after I graduated high school, I got to go to Australia. Spent 3 weeks over there.
Oh, how awesome! So I am dying to go to Australia one day. And
go up to the north, go scuba diving, dude. The Great Barrier Reef, if it's still there, or
I
still
was about to say, if it's still there, there's some real sad news coming out of that area of the woods. So
yeah, so I got to go diving on the Great Barrier Reef. That was warmer in the water than it was outside the water.
wow.
It was amazing. And it was during their winter, so the water was like 75 degrees or something like that, something crazy.
Wow. Yeah, I would love to go there, and I will absolutely pop in and spend a couple days at work with Phil, assuming I don't get him fired from his job. So I'll go dink around in machines in Australia. That'd be a great time.
Yeah.
So yeah, still there for now, Phil. For now, it's there until our apocalyptic global warmingness happens to it. So
He says it's still there. Yeah.
yep, still there. So. Oh man, I've got big news that is simmering, and I can't talk a whole lot about it, but I was contacted this past week by someone that resides in California, in a certain area that's known for film and show production.
Okay.
And there is talk of maybe them doing a channel that is geared towards skilled trades, and I can't say anymore. But it was a very exciting phone call, and we're supposed to meet about details later this week. And so
Wow.
I'm quite excited at the prospect, not even of the prospect of me getting contacted. Like, what really excites me is apparently collectively we as YouTubers in the trades have made enough of a wave that people in Hollywood are starting to pick up on the fact that the skilled trades are largely ignored.
Yeah.
And so for them to even be thinking about doing something like this, really exciting. So that's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to get myself into trouble here, but it's really exciting.
So the only name that really comes to mind, and I'm gonna kind of throw this out there, is Mike Rowe. He is huge into promoting the trades. He has been up in the San Francisco area, did some Facebook promotion. He's got a channel there he usually does, and he was up here in San Francisco and we have a trade school over there that basically does roofing and all that stuff, and they go to high schools and they grab kids that are unprivileged or whatever, or look like they're not going to go to college, and offer them up options. And it's an amazing school, and it's something I had never even heard of. So
Yeah. I think it's probably his foundation, the Micro Works Foundation.
No, it's not his. He was promoting
really?
another. It was a woman was running the thing, and she was a roofer, and she said we're running out of people to do the job. You can see that even in our industry, the old guys are leaving, and we're barely getting new guys in that are young enough and willing enough to put in the time and effort to do the job and train and get properly trained.
Yeah.
Up the phone.
Yeah. So
Get off the phone.
And that's another thing that really excites me about the prospect of them doing this is, first of all, recognizing the skilled trades just in general, but then also to kind of just have yet another platform that we can start approaching younger generations on and start building some excitement about getting into the trades. I think will be really, really beneficial for the trade. So I don't know all the details, and even when I do find out the details, I have officially signed an NDA, so I'm not even allowed to talk about the details. The only reason I've said what I have is because that was pre-NDA. So I know that's safe to talk about, but it's just the prospect of anything starting to roll that focuses on the trades is really exciting. So
Yeah.
So apparently all of us YouTubers are doing something to generate some waves.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean,
We're not just talking to ourselves into the camera.
It seems like it sometimes.
I know,
but
it does.
I mean, I've got some core guys. We were talking earlier off before we went live, about how many people are actually getting to see my videos and stuff like that. My growth is somewhat stagnated a little bit. I don't know if that's because of the way I'm labeling things. That's what YouTube is telling me through the analytics, but it's just one of these deals. I still have some core guys, young guys, that ask questions on the regular, and they watch and they say, they'll comment and say, hey, I've been using the techniques that you taught me at work and it's helping me a ton. And that's the whole reason I started doing this. And several other guys have said, hey, for underground, you're about the only underground guy on YouTube.
That's why I started watching your channel.
Yeah.
There's nobody doing really tutorial type stuff with underground. There's some underground guys on there, but none of them talk about what they're doing.
They just show guys screwing around and doing a little bit of work, and then that's it. Most of the channels put out, just a few videos, and then that's it, and then they move on to something else.
And no one talks about like what you're thinking and why you're going about this. That's what immediately drew. I mean, you've watched enough of my videos at this point that I'm all about teaching and training, and I think that's really beneficial. And I didn't have any seat time as a mainline hoe operator, and so that's why I was immediately drawn to your channel, is because it wasn't just like, okay, watch me put a pipe in the ground. Like, you're legitimately talking about, okay, this is what we've got working with us, this is what we've got working against us, this is my logic as to why I'm doing this, and it's like, okay, I'll sit here and get an education. I'm all about that. So that's great. It's great content. So I will say this, when it comes to the YouTube world for all of us in the trades, your wintertime in general is when your channel is going to have the most growth, because everyone's sitting at home on their layoff watching YouTube videos, and then you will see a pretty drastic dive right around April, May, and it will continue all through the summer, and then right about like October, November, you're going to start seeing it creep back up. In fact, I've just started to notice the slightest little uptick in my analytics over the last like 2 weeks, and I'm getting a little excited because it's finally coming back. But I'm sure that plays into it as well. Is you got a ton of guys that were, especially you're in California where you guys have really good weather year round for the most part. But up here in the northern states, what happens is you have your regular work season where you work relatively manageable hours, and then right about now is when everybody ramps up for the final push of the year. So you were working 5 or 6 days a week, now you're working 6 or 7 days a week. You were working 10-hour days, now you're working 12 to 14-hour days, because it's just that final push. And so I think that's why I saw a little bit of a further dip on my channel within the last month as well. So just, who knows? It's kind of interesting to watch just the general trends of the industry and kind of think about how it's playing into the dynamics of what's happening on the job site. So don't lose heart, Shane. Keep making your content.
No, I'll keep making videos. Like I said, I've got the core group of guys that are definitely, hardcore into it. And I've got the regular guys, you've got your regular guys that pop in here, and you kind of grow to know them a little bit. And I've got one kid that's coming on to my Discord channel now, and he coming in like every other night, just tells me about his day and whatnot. And I throw a few ideas at him, and he goes to bed and I go to bed, and if we catch each other, we catch each other. If not, I've got some of those forum channels, I guess, where you can leave text messages and stuff like that. I've got guys leaving pictures and stuff in there. That's cool. It's cool to keep doing it for the guys that actually want to learn, and that's what, like you said, this is why I started doing it. I've got a ton of knowledge that I want to pass on to people, and the only way to do it that I have that'll get it out to a mass amount is through YouTube.
Sure.
It's pretty much my only option other than becoming a teacher out at the ranch. But even at that, I'm only limited to the apprentices that sign up out there.
Absolutely. That's the exact same way I feel. So it looks like Phil's going to definitely check out your channel, which you should, Phil. Shane puts out some really quality content and some really good educational material. But I do want you to remember whose friend you were first. And you were my friend first, so...
Hey, as long as you smash that like and subscribe button.
That's right. Who cares? Who cares?
And the big thing that I've learned is I need comments. You need comments on your videos, and that's one of the biggest things. So yeah, I've been doing the deep dive into the whole what analytics actually do, and comments do more than anything for your videos. So you got to get that like and subscribe and hitting the little Tinkerbell thingy on the side. That does more than the subscription. It's really crazy how they have their analytics. It doesn't kind of make a lot of sense.
I know, and that's a whole other aspect of it. Which, by the way, Steeler Thug, sorry I didn't say hi earlier, but hey, what's going on? Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. But yeah, no, I had the same thought. When you really think about like making the revenue off of the ads, but you don't get to know any of the secret formula, like how are we supposed to know that they're legitimately paying what they're supposed to and they're following the metrics that they're supposed to? And like over the summer, it's all trending down, even though I've continued through this entire summer to gain about 700 to 800 subscribers per month. Yet so over the course of the summer, I've gained like 4,000 subscribers.
No, I've been watching your numbers, dude. Yeah, you jumped up like what was it? You jumped up 2,500 since I started watching you.
And yet my income has gone down through the summer.
Ooh, mine too.
And I go, how does that logic make any sense? Like my views are going up a little slowly over time, my subscribers are going up, and yet revenue, I'm going. But you're not allowed to know any of the secret sauce on what they're paying their ad revenue out on. So
and that was one of the things that's just blowing my mind. I've had like ever since I had my big push in the very beginning, they pushed out a video that I had 100,000 views on. I was like, oh my God, this is insane. And then from then on, it was just nothing. Yeah. And then it dropped back down to what I would say normal views, and then from there, it's just been on a steady decline. And same thing with money. The money per view on commercials is just dropped at nothing.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but we're along for the roller coaster ride, and everyone does say don't count on the ad revenue as your primary means of income, just because YouTube could change something tomorrow and all of a sudden that evaporates and goes away. So I look at it as gravy money now. Even though I really want that to take over my income so I can go do other things, but whatever. So
Ryan, Jake, welcome to the channel.
Yeah, Ryan, how's it going, man? No problem about being late. What was that, Shane? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh no, I was just saying hi to Ryan and Jake.
Gotcha. Jake, you can do it a couple ways. Instagram Messenger is a great way to get a hold of me. Oh, you know what? I didn't even turn on my little scroller things here. Now that you see the scroller things happening down in the bottom of your screen, one of those will have my email address. It's thatdiggerdude@gmail.com. You're more than welcome to shoot me an email. Those are primarily the two best ways to get a hold of me. And absolutely, you're not pestering me. You're not bothering me. That's why I put this channel together, is to talk to you guys and educate. So feel free to reach out. Jonathan, what's happening? First time commented, first stream. His sister was the last one, but didn't comment. Love your channel and videos. Planning on getting in the industry, but people that help are low. First of all, Jonathan, thank you for the support. I really do appreciate you watching. As Shane can attest as well, anytime we get a new subscriber or someone engaging with the channel, it's really exciting. So genuinely, thank you. And I 100% agree. The training in this field is terrible. It needs a ton of work, which is why I started my channel. Shane was just talking about the fact that's why he started his channel. We want to teach. So yeah, I'm happy to have you here, and you should, while you are here, go subscribe to Shane's channel. Which, Shane, if you get a second, if you want to throw a link in the comments there and maybe pin it to the top, or I can pin it so that people can go subscribe to your channel. Shane does a phenomenal job at teaching underground work, which, unless you're on an underground crew, you generally don't get access to that sort of stuff, which is why you don't see a whole lot of underground stuff on my channel, because I'm not in that world anymore. So Shane is a great resource for you guys that are wanting to learn about underground work. I would highly recommend you go subscribe to his channel. So Ryan, yes, it is quiet in here tonight. I'm a little confused as to why, because it's not a holiday weekend or anything. But yes, it is awful quiet in here. We've kind of been twiddling our thumbs for a little bit. It's starting to pick up though. I'm getting a little, not feeling as bad about myself. Bacon, have to listen again tomorrow. I'll see what I've missed. Hey, thanks for coming in for the time that you have, Bacon. Appreciate it. Ryan, my boss is looking at a brand new 8-ton Bobcat. I don't know how to feel about that. Well, I can help you with your feelings, Ryan. You should be angry, upset, frustrated. These are all good words to use when discussing Bobcat excavators. That will at least get you started on your feelings. Have you ran any Bobcats, Shane?
The excavators, only the garden variety that would fit in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And that was a very sketchy and scary event. You run over a pebble and it wants to fall over.
Yeah. And you don't have a ROPS because it's too small.
Yeah, something like that. It just had the hoop. That's all it had.
Yeah. So we've had a what word am I? Multitude? Is that the word I'm looking for? We've had a variety, that's a better word, of Bobcat machines that Rick and I have used on our jobs, ranging from the beautiful E25 all the way up to the E45. I don't remember if we got into a 55 or not. And I will say, I hated them, as I've made very evident on my channel. I've hated those machines. I'm not a fan. And I didn't realize just how much I hated them until we rented a Mini this past week, and it was a Cabelco. It was a SK35, I believe. And so, I show up on the job, it's like, damn it, it's another Mini that I have to run because I hate running Minis. I didn't realize how freaking jerky those Bobcats were until I got in this Cabelco, and it was like running one of the big Cabelcos. Like, it was super smooth, and I had all this control, and it was quiet. I was like, man, those Bobcats suck balls. Like, it was awful. So it was nice to have a comparison.
Yeah, talking about the Cabelco, the rental that we had problems with that they brought in a hammer for was a Cabelco 140. Had less than 1,000 hours on it, and so I got to play with it for a day, and I got to play around with the swing and how fast the swing was, and the swing stop on it was much better than the larger machines that are out there. So it actually performed fairly well. I didn't get to dig with it or anything like that, so I didn't get to put it through its paces very much.
Yeah.
But the swing was definitely improved over other Cabelcos that I had run in the past.
I tell you, their newer machines have really impressed me. So my history with Cabelco is I had no knowledge they even existed really. Before I started working at Southeastern Equipment, which is where I used to deal case, and Cabelco was our other manufacturer. And so I kind of went into it like Cabelco's this off-brand, like cheapy, like a Saney. Like that was kind of where I had them pegged.
When they first came out, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then I started actually getting some seat time in them and really putting them through their paces in the back of our yard, and they have shocked the snot out of me at what good machines they have been. So it surprised me when you said you didn't like the older ones, but I haven't spent any seat time in the older ones. But man, the newer ones, I have been really impressed at their performance.
Yeah, the older ones, I hated those things. I really did. They had power and stuff, but the places like you said, they had that dual stage pump, and I told you that before,
Yep.
where you get into heavy, and the pump, it was like changing gear into a low gear, and it would just yank on the bucket if you were in the wrong position. You were trying to do fine movements around stuff. It was horrible. I mean, there were several times guys pulled through gas lines and all kinds of stuff on those machines.
Wow.
And that was the 480. So it was the 89 ton, I think. So it was a large, 85 ton, I think is what it was.
85 ton, yep.
So it was, it was a big change from the Cat 350 that I was running.
Yeah.
And the 350 that I ran was a 89 ton machine.
Gotcha. So Jonathan just brought up the point. Something he picked up on quickly was the love for JCB on this channel. And yes, we love JCB. You know what? We should just offer JCB a sponsorship on this channel because we love them so much. And I hope everyone picks up on the sarcasm on that because it's awful. Yeah. It's awful. And poor AP isn't in here to defend himself. My one guy from England that shows up all the time. He's not in here to defend his equipment here. Jake, 100% Best Machine Making Company. That's what they should just rename it as, Best Machine Company. Ryan, trying to talk him out of it, but he's just looking at the price tag. I'm going to tell you right now, Ryan, anyone that just looks at a price tag to buy equipment, you shouldn't be buying equipment. You need to find something else to busy yourself with and let someone who knows how to buy equipment do their job. Jackson, guess what? Went to Rose City Comic-Con in Portland, got pictures with one of my favorite people, Adam Savage from Mythbusters. That's awesome, Jackson. I've always wanted to meet Adam Savage. He looks like he would just be a pretty fun, down-to-earth guy to hang out with, so that's pretty awesome. That's really exciting. Did you ever watch Mythbusters?
Oh, dude, I
loved
was religious about
yeah,
Mythbusters.
It was awesome. Which really devastated me when Grant Imahara died. Like, that was just totally out of left field.
That
it was like
crazy. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, it was really sad. Camille, thanks for showing up, man. Appreciate it. Good to see you. Ryan, cousin also ran a 13-ton sand. Oh, Saney. I bet that was supposed to say Saney. 13-ton Saney. Said it wasn't bad on power, but it was fast, but it was loud. Hydraulic pumps aren't adequate, so it jumps when changing functions. That's honestly, you can slap an engine in anything, and you can throw some hydraulic cylinders on anything, but really when it comes to the controls and the quality of the hydraulics, that's where you run into problems with the cheaper machines. And so that doesn't surprise me at all. That's honestly my biggest complaint with the Bobcat machines is they're cheap. And so you get this really jerky nature out of the machine. It feels like it's super sensitive and it's really fast until you crank your swing motor all the way over and you jerk into motion, and then you just start doing this slow hour-and-a-half long, like there's no speed to back it up. you're just sitting there.
It runs out of that hydraulic pressure.
Yeah, you step out of the cab for a coffee break while you finish making your swing. It takes so long, so there's no speed to actually back it up. And all that to say, it doesn't surprise me. I bet Saney would be the exact same way, to where you get this kind of false sense of speed. It's really jerky, but there's nothing to actually back it up. So,
and
sorry, I had to lower
get
myself
a lot
down.
of that with the Takahachis, and we have a ton of Takahachis.
Yep.
And those things, good Lord, the tracking on them is horrible. Guys are up there looking at me. The seat doesn't go just up and down. It goes forwards and backwards. And then the pedals, they sit up about a foot off the floorboard, so you can't put your heels on the floorboard to
that
touch
drives me
pedals.
nuts.
So as soon as you touch those pedals, and it's an electric over hydraulic control, so as soon as you touch the pedals, it jerks, and then your seat slides back and then back forward, and now you're in a rhythm that you can't get out of.
Yeah, I hate. Oh, that drives me nuts, because it makes you look like you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's my favorite rhythm to get into.
Just up there listening to heavy metal bang in my head.
It makes me feel good having this discussion with another operator, because I've always felt like I just look retarded in the seat, and it really makes me feel good to know that other people do that are experienced.
Yeah. No, and that's one of the reasons a lot of guys comment on my videos, because when I'm running those Takahachis, I'll reach up there with my hand, cram my leg up against the console, and put my elbow in it and try to be as sensitive as I can with
it.
Yeah, so that way nothing's moving. And I'll try to jam one foot under the seat to keep it from sliding. It's like, oh my God.
That's awesome. Let's see here. JCB, Bobcat, and backhoes in general. That's what fuels the channel, Ryan. You got it. Jackson, yes, it did suck when Grant passed away. Jonathan's backhoes is a piece of equipment I feel is getting pushed away by minis. Minis are taking over jobs backhoes would do in the past. Between minis and CTLs, compact track loaders, your skid steers with tracks, if you're not familiar with all those terms, yes, all of those traditional backhoe jobs, people are realizing the benefits of, yes, it takes two machines to do the job of what the backhoe did. However, you've got two machines that have a footprint that's easily half the size of the backhoe. You've got far better weight distribution because both of your machines have tracks, which we've never talked about this before on this channel, but the advantage of tracks over wheels in any application is you have lower ground pressure, which means you are spreading the weight of the machine over a larger area. About the only instance I can think of, and Shane, feel free to interject if you've got another example, but about the only instance you would not want that lower ground pressure is when you're plowing snow, because the higher ground pressure gives you better tractive effort for pushing big piles of snow, so you're not going to slide as much. That's why track machines do a terrible job in snow plowing. But any other application, you know, if you're wanting to float over a septic field, you're going to use a track machine.
We're talking weight distribution.
What's that? Yeah, exactly. It's all about weight distribution. Absolutely. You want to spread that weight. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we had two Cat 350s. One was a 95, one was a 1996. I had the 1996 newer model, and the guy that was ahead of me, his rig had 800 mil tracks on it. I had the 600 mil tracks on it.
Yep.
My rig was awesome at tracking up and down hills, and stuff like that, where his would actually start to slide because he was distributing his weight more than I was. So it definitely made a huge difference in how the two machines tracked around. Mine was easier to spin, where his was, you know, he would go through mud a lot easier, and I would just sink into it. So tracks are huge difference, especially on dozers. Have you ever seen the mud tracks? Those things are like a 1,000 mil with the triangular pads on them. Those things will float across water.
It's amazing watching those things go through like a peat or a bog area. Like, it's incredible. They float. But likewise, try pushing a big old pile of dirt with one of those suckers, and you're not going anywhere fast because all of that weight is distributed. That's, you know, a lot of people, when I was selling equipment, they always wanted the wide track or the LGP. Wide track, LGP. And I go, okay, well, what's your application? Are you in wet material all the time? Well, no. Well, why do you want the LGP tracks? Well, because you got all this pad for traction. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. The more you spread that track out, the less tractive effort you get. So it's actually more effective if you're always in dry applications and you've got the ability to, you're not sinking into your material. You actually want a narrow gauge track. It also depends on what pad you're running. What's that? It also depends on which track grouser pad you're running.
That's
true.
Well.
Yeah.
If you're running street pads, or if you're running the high grouser pads that have those big teeth on it, and that's what my rig had. I had those big, tall,
the single bar grousers.
Yeah, I had one tooth per track.
Yep.
So that thing, I would dig. All the digging I did was more extreme. They put me on like digging uphill on a 1-to-1 sometimes. It's crazy, stupid stuff.
But you got the traction; you could do it.
Yeah,
and it was a combination of the narrow gauge tracks.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So, for those of you again not familiar in the industry, so the tracks that Shane is talking about, you can actually, believe it or not, most people haven't seen it. It took me forever before I actually saw it in the field, but you can get excavators with dozer style tracks on them. And what we're talking about is, those are called grousers, the part that extends above the track that you typically are familiar with on a dozer. That's called your grouser. And so you have single bar grousers, which is a dozer track, or you have what's called triple bar grousers, which are the traditional excavator track, where it's got, and Shane just called them street pads basically. It's the advantage of the single bar grousers is you get a lot of traction. That's why dozers have them. But the advantage of triple bar grousers is, if I'm going to track over asphalt, it's still going to tear up the asphalt a little bit. It's still going to scuff the top of it, but you're not going to dig into that asphalt like you will with a single bar grouser track. And so that's why you see most excavators, because they're not pushing material, they can get away with the triple bar grouser track, but you never see triple bar grousers on dozers, because dozers need to push. They need to grab the material, hang on while you push forward. And you can't do that with a triple bar grouser track. So all that to say, to kind of circle this whole conversation back, that's why backhoes aren't being used nearly like they were, is because you can take two machines, half the footprint. You don't have the ground pressure that you do traditionally with a backhoe. You dig far more efficiently in a mini excavator than a backhoe, because you can actually swing 360 degrees. You can reach further, typically, depending on what size machine you're comparing to. And then you also don't have to kind of fold the machine all up in order to move yourself around. You've got tracks, so you're just able to move all over the place. So overall, it's just a much more efficient digging machine. And then when it comes to backfill, think about the spots you can get yourself into with a skid steer versus what you can with a backhoe. You've got this huge, long, wide turn radius with a backhoe versus a skid steer. If I'm on a little bit of yard that I got to go up and just turn directly 90 degrees and dump into my trench, I can do that with a skid steer. With a backhoe, I'm forced doing this funky little, I'm going to come at the trench from the side at an angle and try to fill it and work my way out. And So it's far more efficient to use those two machines if you can afford to have the two machines. So, all right, let me catch back up here in my comments. So Sean, I think you guys are both doing a great job with your channels. Not that means much, my opinion. Been told, explain myself more, my thoughts. You know what, Sean? I will take your compliment, and I appreciate it. I genuinely do, and I think Shane feels the same way. It's a lot of times on this end of the table, it kind of feels like we're throwing videos out there for like 10 people to watch. And so to have guys genuinely come in and talk about how much it's helped to view our material, that really kind of gives us the pep talk that we need to keep making it, because it does. You have down days, like Shane and I were just talking about, viewership going down and income going down because of the fluctuations in the season. So we genuinely do appreciate the compliment, brother. Ryan, got back in the seat of a backhoe for a couple hours a couple weeks ago, didn't miss it at all. Also learned I can't run John Deere controls to save my life. You got to dedicate a day. You got to dedicate a day to sucking it up before it clicks.
So here's the question: Are those John Deere controls on an excavator, or John Deere controls on a John Deere backhoe? Because there's a big difference between the wobble sticks and the excavator sticks.
Oh, that's true. I hate wobble sticks. I hate wobble sticks.
And I grew up running. I started learning on a Case Ford, which was really weird because Ford's backwards from Case.
Oh no!
You can actually swap your hands and run them.
Oh, do you really? You can?
Yeah. You can. So basically, the two outside controls are just backwards. That's all it is on a Case and a Ford.
Interesting.
And then I moved up to John Deere with the wobble sticks, and what was else? Then I moved on to excavators. But yeah, if you throw John Deere controls on the excavator sticks, I'm lost. But you throw me I can jump from an excavator to a wobble stick backhoe with no problem.
Yeah, so I can go to wobble sticks, I can operate it. I hate the feel of the wobble sticks, but I can at least do the job. But when you switch from John Deere to cat controls, so I'm a cat control guy, or ISO I think it is, you swap those over and I'm sunk. It's gonna take me a day of looking like an idiot before I finally get my brain clicked around. And if you really want to melt your mind and your face off, are you familiar with the old style link belt controls?
Never got to run those.
So your swing is forward and back on your left hand. And then everything else is all jacked up as a result of that. So just think about that for a minute, trying to dig in that machine. We've got a company here locally that still converts all of their machines over to link belt controls. And then the owner of the company doesn't understand why they can't find operators. It's like, what?
The only way to do that would be to actually rewire all the hoses.
They physically change all of the pilot controls around so that
you wouldn't even be able to resell it that way.
I had this whole conversation with one of their operators. I was like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's like, yeah, I know. It's like, you can't hire any operators because no one knows how to run those controls. And you're literally one of the only people left in the industry that run those controls. So why would I go waste 3 weeks of my time learning to run these controls? That's going to totally mess with my brain from any machine going forward that I run. Like, no, I'll just go someplace else that runs regular controls. So,
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Jackson, have you ever operated a boom lift? I have run a boom lift around the yard. I would not say that's operating a boom lift. But they are pretty straightforward. I mean, as long as you follow the leveling guidelines and you know how to operate an up and down, forward, backwards. I mean, nothing's really crazy on a boom lift. There's not a whole lot of skill required in a boom lift, so I'm pretty
slow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could pull that one off.
I spent 2 months running a boom truck, moving K-rail.
Oh, there you go.
A company, FCI. I drove 3 sticks of K-rail, drive it out down the highway, unload them and put them in line, and then drive back, go get 3 more, and then at the end of the job, go back out, and I had to pick them all back up.
Yeah, the closest I ever got to anything like that was we had an old power company truck that had the crane and the boom all kind of attached, and I was the only guy that had I wouldn't even call it a full-on crane certification at that point, but I was the only one qualified to operate that crane, and so I ran that. It was really straightforward. There wasn't anything crazy about running the machine. So, and that's with the crane component.
Yeah, and I didn't have the crane, that crane version. I just had the boom one, boom truck. So it was just up, down, left, and right.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty straightforward.
In and out. Yeah, those are easy to do, but the ones that have the crane arms on them, that's a little different.
Yep. Bacon, surprised to hear Takeuchi uses and travel on minis. They seem to have such a solid reputation on their skids and CTLs. Pretty sure they still offer pilot. Yeah, their skids and CTLs still to this day, like the actual machine itself is a phenomenal machine. The only issue Tak is having right now with their machines is the emissions, and it's terrible. It is god awful. You do not want to own a Takeuchi right now, and I hate saying that because I love their skid steer so much.
Yeah, we have all kinds of issues with our DEF systems. We get the little warnings that they've got to replace the DEF filter,
Yep.
which is like a week-long project. They've actually got to take the machine to the yard and tear it all apart to change it out. And that's usually about every, 2,000 hours or so?
Is it really that frequently?
2,000 or 4,000. It might be 4,000.
Huh. Yeah,
But,
they're really struggling.
Yeah, if you're running it a lot, like we in the Bay Area, it's all they use are Takeuchis. Our company in the United States, we own the most Takeuchis in the country.
Wow.
So we have a direct contact with the dealership on everything for
to bitch
Takeuchi.
at them about their emissions issues.
Yeah. So, it's we have tons of them. They're everywhere because we have to have them for the area. Like in the Bay Area, everything's tight and small. There are no big projects in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
If you get to use an excavator that's larger than, say, a 20-ton, then you're on a huge project.
Big job. Yeah.
A multi-million-dollar project.
Wow. Yeah. Just so tight on space.
Yep.
Huh.
And most of the jobs are rejuvenation, rip out and replace stuff.
Yeah.
Or putting in new stuff where 100 other lines have already been.
Oh, those are fun. Those are fun.
Yeah.
Sean, getting a cat backhoe, my job. I'm getting a cat backhoe, my job, because if all the loaders are tied up, try to do 1,600 foot of storm drain in this terrible site. Yeah, doing 1,600 foot of storm with a backhoe? No thanks. Jason, go ahead. What were you gonna say, Shane?
I said, have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have at it, buddy. Jason, my company uses mostly excavators, but the backhoe still has a couple uses. For example, we still use them for digging under drains. It works well for working around the curbs. There are absolutely certain applications where you can use them and they can be effective and everything. But what I always come back to is it's 9 times out of 10, a mini would do that job more effectively. It would be able to get around, with the exception of when we were on the larger projects and we were doing erosion control and stuff like that, to be able to zip across an 11-mile job site, without having to load up onto a trailer and trailer it down the road and re-unload and everything. That's where a backhoe has a clear advantage over using the machines we were discussing earlier. But outside of those applications, it's just far more efficient to use a mini and a CTL. So, track loaders also use that type of track instead of the dozer tracks. Jonathan, you are correct. Yep. So track loaders will use triple bar grousers, which I have always wondered why that is, because track loaders really need that traction. They're generally in a dozing type application if they're not just outright scooping. The only thing I can think is, and this is totally me spitballing, is the fact that you do use a track loader, and we are talking full-size track loader here just to eliminate any confusion. We're not talking about a compact track loader, a tracked skid steer. We're talking about the Cat 953, 963, 973. The only thing I can think is those machines do get used a fair amount for doing finish grade work, and you don't want to tear that up with single bar grousers, which is why I would think you would put the triple bar grousers on there. That's totally me spitballing. Do you have any additional theories on that one, Shane?
No, not really. I haven't been around those machines in years. I haven't seen one since I was an apprentice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're just not very common here in California.
Yeah, they're not common here in Michigan, and it's my favorite machine, and we don't ever see them around here. I hate it. Sean, we have a 349 with single bar. They should have grabbed on a lot better. There's a 336 with the triple bar, drags itself around like it's on frozen ground. Single bar grousers are better for frost. Yeah, anytime you need traction, single bar grousers are going to absolutely destroy triple bar grousers in that aspect. So,
best thing to do with those triple bar ones, if you're having traction issues, dig while you're digging, spin around, throw yourself down track line. And then now you've got fresh dirt that's soft that'll go into those grouser pads.
Yeah, and you'll create traction for yourself. Absolutely. Let's see here, Ryan. John Deere controls on a case backhoe with wobble sticks. As Shane said, switching hands helps a lot with boom and stick controls, but when your swing and bucket are backwards. Yep. There's only so much you can do. I've heard of companies that intentionally have all their machines on John Deere controls because their operators can't go elsewhere. I would say if that's kind of your company's mentality, I would absolutely walk away from that company. That's just that's an asshole-ish mentality to have as an employer, is you're going to keep someone there because you're limiting their skills. That's ridiculous. But that shouldn't be a problem these days, because almost every machine out now has a pattern switcher on it. It's generally located directly behind the cab in one of the side compartments. But like we were talking about, the only way you could switch over to link belt controls is at that point you're physically moving the pilot lines around. You are unbolting lines and changing them around. There is no pattern switcher to go to link belt controls. But when it comes to cat or deer, there's a pattern switcher. So even that mentality doesn't
pretty much
work.
Every machine now.
Yeah, every machine.
Even backhoes have them now.
Yep.
Some of them actually just have a toggle switch. You can switch between the ISO.
You don't even have to get out of the cab. Yeah, and backhoes, a lot of times it's right there in the cab. Pop, boom, good to go.
Yeah. And just so you guys know, on the Takahachis, underneath the floorboard where your feet are at.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's just mean.
Lift the mat. All you have to do is lift the mat and turn it. And and that's on the 1140s and the 2150s. When you get into the smaller machines, they're either in front of the cab underneath the foot pedals, or they're over on actually in the control panel where the hydraulics are at.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. My cousin worked as a mainline hoe operator and see many come from companies like that and almost leave immediately. Yeah, that's the thing. I just actually did I've done a series of videos on the dirt, which if you guys don't subscribe to Equipment World, you should head over there and subscribe to that. I'm the host of that show. But I've done a couple episodes now talking about how employers are no longer competing or contractors, I should say, are no longer competing for work. Everyone's up to their eyeballs in work. Now what people are competing for is people. And if you treat your people like garbage, guess what? You don't get people. And so, just to play into what Ryan's saying, yeah, if employees are not dumb, none of us are dumb, and we know what you're doing as an employer if you do that sort of shady stuff to try to keep your employees. And guess what? We all recognize you're an asshole and we're going elsewhere. So, Andrew Ruggiero, missed last week's stream, had COVID. Dude, I am sorry. That sucks. I am glad that you were here this week, which tells me you are recovering, which is better than some people. So, I'm glad to hear that
if
you're
you
doing
got
better.
Over it in 1 week, then he's doing really good.
Yeah, that's especially if you got the Delta variant or whatever we're on now. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. My foreman, he got it 3 weeks ago, and he took 2 weeks off.
We had a lawn care guy that I think he was in the hospital for a month and a half. Like, it's rough when it hits some people. So
yeah.
Sean, it's something about the controls being in front of you and beside you. Same for me. Switch like nothing. For me, switch like nothing. Same. I can now go from one to the other in an excavator inside 10 to 15 minutes. I think I get what you just said. If you are practiced in both, it is far easier to switch between both. I used to run exclusively Deere controls because I had one of those employers that just put all their machine on Deere controls and we're not going to change it. And then I went to cat controls, and it took me a week of looking like I'd never run an excavator before, but now my brain is totally on cat controls. I cannot go back to Deere controls. It's been too long. So, but if you do switch back and forth, it's far easier to get your brain in the habit of switching back and forth. Jackson, there was no stream last weekend, Andrew. It was Labor Day weekend. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Andrew, you're fine. You didn't even miss anything. I totally forgot about that. And that sucks that he was out for Labor Day. That really sucks. Bacon, to replace the diesel exhaust filter sounds like abuse. So a diesel, so I'm assuming you're talking about a DPF. To replace a DPF is actually fairly straightforward. It's going to cost you a kidney in order to do that, because they're ungodly expensive. But it's relatively straightforward. It's literally unplug your sensors, bolt the whole thing off, bolt a new one on, plug all your sensors back in. What Shane was talking about is the DEF filter. And that is actually a filter that goes inside the DEF tank, or a lot of times they're external, but you have to get down in there to get to it. It is a small, tiny screen, and it filters out crystals that form in the DEF fluid when it evaporates. And it is a pain in the ass to switch out. Like Shane was saying, depending on the machine, it could be something you could do on site, or some machines actually require you taking it back to the yard. I'm assuming it was probably in the DEF tank. Do you know, Shane?
I do not know where it's located for our system, but one of the things I do know, our company's standard is that if the DEF fluid gets below half, fill it.
Yeah. So
keep the tank full so there's no evaporation.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. Even bigger than that, if you go buy DEF fluid, it is always recommended that you buy the 1 or 2 gallon jug, whatever the little boxes are, the blue DEF that we're all familiar with. Only buy what you need. Don't go buy 10 of those and throw them in the bed of your truck, because what happens is over the next 3 weeks, they evaporate off. You get a lot of crystallization that happens within the container. And the thing about the urea is, once it crystallizes, it doesn't go back into solution. In other words, if I put a bunch of water in my DEF tank, or in my DEF container that half of the water is evaporated off of, those crystals don't reabsorb into the new water. They just stay crystals. And then you go and pour that into your tank. All those crystals go in there and they break apart, and some of those crystals are small enough they can get through that filter. So it's going to clog the filter, which is going to cause the issues that Shane was just talking about. But then eventually, over time, some of them will get around the filter. Then you run into, you've got issues with your DEF nozzles. That's really expensive to fix. You've got sensor issues that happen, really expensive to fix. Generally, it's really problematic. It's not something that it just flashes a light and says, hey, the DEF filter's clogged. It's generally these other issues that you kind of have to troubleshoot and figure out, oh, it's because there's crystals in the DEF tank. So all that to say, proper DEF storage is critical anytime you're dealing with DEF. Do not leave it in the bed of your truck, because you will have major issues with it. So don't reuse DEF containers too. That's a huge no-no. Do not reuse DEF containers. Anything you want to add to that, Shane?
No, I think you covered just pretty much everything.
Okay.
I got a maneuver you can do to clear your filters.
What's that?
Right here.
There you go. So if you tip the machine forward enough, you will dump the DEF out of the top of the tank. Crystals should follow. All right, Jonathan, what do you think? And I'm going to let you answer this one, Shane. What do you think about the cat dozer renames? The D1 to the D3, or I'm sorry, the D3K is now the D1. The D4K is now the D2, and the D5K is now the D3.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
It really doesn't bother me. All that matters is if the right one's being used. It seems weird that they would change those, but I'm sure they have a good reason they did it.
I think it is.
I haven't run a dozer in years.
Yep.
I think the last dozer I ran was a John Deere with a slope board on it. It was, I think, like a 800 or something, or 4 or something. I don't remember what the designation on it. It was pretty. It wasn't big by any means. It was. Yep. We were doing an underpass, converting an overpass into an underpass on some light rail tracks. So I was just doing the sloping underneath the underpass and pushing rock grade with it.
Yeah. So my thoughts on it are, if we're gonna convert all of the cat lineup over to the new nomenclature, we're gonna have a painful, call it 5-ish years, while everyone cycles through the old stuff, and we're going, okay, when you say D3, do you mean an actual D3 or do you mean a D1? Like, this is, what dozer are we actually talking about? Because you've just shifted the entire scale. I was under the impression, but I haven't done a ton of homework on this, I was under the impression the whole dozer lineup was going to go to the new nomenclature. I will say, if it's only the K-Series dozers that are going to that nomenclature, what a pain in the ass. What a confusing pain in the ass. Like, let's convert everything or let's convert nothing. Because right now, if I say a D6K or a D3K, we all know what I'm talking about. But if I say I need a D3 on this job, which one? a legit D3, or do you need a D1? So yeah, it's irritating right now. Until they kind of get everything sorted out, it's just irritating. Sean, I still got the 336 to dig it in. Just the back is going to be the support machine moving around the stone pipe. Oh, that's nice.
I think he's talking about the backhoe.
The backhoe, yep. So that is nice that you're not forced to dig the freaking storm with the backhoe. That would be terrible. I would hate my life. One thing I can think of, triple bar grousers on track loaders, is perhaps it's easier to turn, potentially less abuse on the machine, fighting the turn, tearing up a lot of ground. Because track loaders, I would think, are doing a lot more turning than a dozer. Ryan, that's a great point, and I would 100% agree with you. That's probably a huge factor as well. I didn't even think about until you said that. Yeah, that makes total sense. Bacon, 1/16 scale RC963, lousy traction on anything but carpet. Well, have you taken it out in the dirt? I'm assuming if it's an RC963, that was a relatively cheap, expenditure there. So go throw that sucker in some dirt and some mud and see what happens. Sean, we got a couple companies around here like that, but it's hard to find people, so it's a double-edged sword as far as that John Deere control nonsense. Yep. Yeah, with everyone fighting for people, you should be doing whatever you can as an employer to make your employees' lives easier, because the more difficult you make their lives, the more they're going to go jump ship, and you can find a job anywhere right now. Jonathan, track loaders are incredibly rare. Last one I ever saw was an old 977L Cat that looked like a D6C or D7C with the loader bucket. It depends on where you're at in the country and in the world. So the track loader market is still absolutely there, and their Cat is continuing. I want to say they're on the K series track loaders now. John Deere just came out with a new iteration on their track loaders, so they are there. What I've noticed is it's a lot more kind of in the central US. So you've got Kansas, Nebraska. I know the Carolinas tend to use them. Kentucky tends to use them. Tennessee, kind of that central US area, really like their track loaders. I know down south in Texas, when I was down there, when they were digging in the limestone and stuff, they used a fair amount of track loaders to do all of their heavy bulking, because if you think about it, a regular rubber tire machine going over chunks of limestone, it shreds those tires. And so while it is not a smooth ride, it's far less maintenance cost to have a track loader running over that than a rubber tire loader. So they used a fair amount in central Texas as well. Jackson, DEF is required in diesel pickup trucks now. It's better for the environment. It disgusts me when I see someone driving down the road just blowing coal everywhere. It's so bad for the environment. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to see some soot clouds coming out of not so much pickup trucks, because, boy, I'm gonna offend half of my subscribers here probably, but I'm sorry if you're rolling coal in a pickup truck. We know what that means, tiny penis gang. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Like, it's just, come on, really? But I love seeing a big old black cloud come out of like a 345 when it fires up in the morning, or when you really get into some rough material and that machine, that turbo spools up. Like, there is something where you're like, ooh, that's sexy. Shane, what are your
You can spot across the job, ooh, that guy's in something hard.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know exactly what's going on, and you're like, I'm gonna watch for a second. This is good. So, Tim Jenkins, I worked for a guy running a brand new PC 490, and it was like pulling teeth to get the DEF. And once got so much, I left it outside in the winter, and that crap had ice in it. So yeah, so what you guys have to understand is DEF fluid sounds like this fancy secret sauce. It is urea, which is ammonia, essentially, and water. By design, it freezes in the wintertime. So this is a little known fact about machines. There is actually part of, it almost works like a heater core. There is actually a coil of coolant line that goes through your DEF tank and it is used to heat the DEF in the wintertime. And so it is automatically built into the machine that it will not do any sprays of DEF, and it will not do any emissions readings for the first 30 minutes after the machine has been fired up when the temperature is below freezing. And it's because they've programmed into the computer that that DEF has to actually melt inside the tank before it can dose your SCF, right? No, selective SCR. Sorry guys, SCR. So an SCR, selective catalyst reduction, something like that. It looks like a muffler, but it actually is a catalyst. There's an element in there that as the exhaust passes over, the urea gets sprayed onto it, and there's a chemical reaction that takes place, and it actually reduces your NOx emissions, which is your nitrous oxide. And so it's not a filter, it is a catalyst, and that's why out of the two, a DEF system is better than a DPF filter. A DPF filter is a filter, and over time it will get clogged. A SCR, which is what you use in a DEF system, will not get clogged. If you're running the machine the way you're supposed to be, it will not get clogged. It's just a catalyst. And so all that to say, it has to be able to dose that urea, but urea freezes when it's below freezing. And so that's all built into the machine. But yes, if it's sitting in the bed of your truck and you're not used to seeing that, it is kind of a shock when you pull an ice block out of the bed of your truck. And you do need to put that in your truck, get some heat on it, and turn it into a liquid before you fill it into the machine. So anything you want to add on that one, Shane?
I'm just watching the argument in the chat.
No, I haven't even gotten that far in the comments yet. I'm getting excited now.
It's yeah, Ryan and who else is it?
Jackson,
Ryan and Jackson
Mason.
are going back and forth.
So let's see here. We've got Ryan. Yeah, DEF doesn't help. The people turning up the pumps to roll coal are doing DEF deletes. Yeah, 100%. Is that still just harmful to the environment as well? Blah, blah, blah. The people tuning for rolling coal are just wasting fuel. That's what all the... Yeah, exactly. That's my big thing is your wiener is so tiny that you are paying to spray excess diesel into the engine that's not burning. It's not it's actually robbing you of power because you're not burning the fuel. You're running it rich just so that you can smog everybody. Like, you're just being a dick. Like, that's it. It's just a dick move. So
yeah.
Yes.
And just as a side note, Ryan and Jackson, you guys have led me to drink.
That's what we do on this live stream. We talk about construction equipment and we drink. Yeah, Ryan, factory tuned. Yeah, Ryan's 100% correct. Even before there was DPF filters and DEF and all of these emission standards, a properly tuned diesel engine does not blow crazy black soot. Now, when you start getting into performance engines, so like tractor pulls and stuff like that, the reason you generally see the soot in the beginning is because it does run a little rich until the turbo is able to catch up with the boost to provide enough oxygen for proper combustion. And then what you'll notice is as that turbo spools up and you go to full boost on the turbo, all of that black soot goes away because the rich fuel is now being completely burned, which means you're getting maximum power out of the machine and you don't have the black smoke. Likewise on the old machines that we were talking about, like an old 345 excavator, the reason when you get into rough material you see that big old soot cloud come out is because the engine is starting to work harder. The fuel injectors are able to inject diesel at a faster rate than the turbo is able to pressurize the combustion chamber with more air. So you do have this like half second to a second that you run really rich. There's your soot cloud. Turbo catches up. Now you have more oxygen. You burn the fuel completely. Now you have this nice long clean burn and you get the power out of it. So apparently tonight we're going through all the mechanics of how these machines work, which I'm good with that. That's good. Let's see here. Where did I leave off? Sean, not a lot of track loaders in New England. They like them in New York near the city on demo jobs because the buildings have a lot of brick and concrete. Yep, makes total sense. Jackson, harm the environment as well. Same time pisses me off. Yep, we're all for the environment. Especially Shane out there in California. You guys are all about the
No, they'll ticket you if you're rolling coal. If you're going down the highway rolling coal, they'll pull you over and ticket you.
I've heard, yeah. So that was something I didn't even think about with you guys. Is the auto tuning crowd said you can't do the crazy auto tuning because you have to be able to actually go into an emission center and pass. So you can't do exhaust modifications.
I've got a 2006 Dodge Ram diesel, and I have to have it smogged.
Oof.
So, and the smog basically for my truck just consists, they don't put a whiffer in it or anything. It's a visual test. They pop your hood, look underneath your console, make sure you don't have a program in there. They'll rev up your truck once or twice, and then if you're not puffing smoke, you're good to go.
Interesting. Huh.
And the whole thing is that here in California, you can do that and then drive out on the street and plug your controller back in and crank it back up.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd hate to live out there and have to deal with all that. Like, at the end of the day, I want to be able to build a tuner car and not have to worry about a freaking emissions test. Like, let me just go have fun with my tuner car.
Well, do you want me to blow your mind here in a minute?
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
They have a new act being done called the RPM Act. And what that does, and this will be nationwide, any car that was designed to be driven on the road cannot be modified at all to be driven on a racetrack.
What?
No modifications whatsoever. Zero modifications.
I'm sorry, but this is why most people think that California should just fall into the ocean eventually.
No, it's not just California. This is going to be
Is this federal? Is this at the federal level?
Yeah, this will be a countrywide law.
What?
Yeah, it's basically the end of
auto racing. Yeah.
Auto racing, yeah. It'll be the end of auto racing in the United States.
I don't know how the NASCAR crowd's gonna contend with this, because NASCAR America is a good chunk of America. They're gonna get some kickback from. Oof.
I'll see if I can find a link on that.
When is that supposed to get voted in? Do you know?
I think there was a roll call going through. I forget what it's called, where everyone was putting in their name to protest against it.
Huh.
Saying, so let me look it up.
Yeah, Bacon, I'm the same way. Like, I'm not the biggest guy, but like blowing black smoke all over people is, I don't need to compensate for my wiener size. I'm feeling okay. I'm not, the most confident guy, but at the same time, I don't need to, do that. So it is what it is.
Okay, I need to correct myself here.
Go for it.
So the RPM Act is actually the act that the race car side is trying to put in to Congress right now, which would basically take this new law that they're trying to push through and nullify it.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna throw a link into chat roll here. This is from SEMA about the EPA is trying to push this law. So this will be, countrywide.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Ryan. Like, how would you materially enforce that, especially with the backlash that you're going to get where everyone pulls their tuned cars out of the garage and starts going crazy? Like, how are you going to enforce that? Like,
there's no way. Well, I mean, it's just like here in California. They in 2019 they enacted a new law for sound on your cars. Primarily, this was done for the diesels, against the diesels, because they're so loud. So if you have a vehicle that is louder than 102 decibels, or I think 102 or 105 decibels or something like that, it would be deemed illegal. Now, the issue with this is there are cars that are factory that come out like 108 decibels. The Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis. Those come from the factory and are sold in California.
That's an easy fix, though, Shane. You go down to Home Depot, you get you a couple rolls of that pink Panther fiberglass insulation, and you just roll and duct tape the shit out of it. You quiet it right down.
And it's funny because we used to have, when I used to race motorcycles, we had a decibel limit during practice. And all we did is we took an inner tube tire from a motorcycle and slid it over the top of our exhaust, and it was just enough to dampen it, flopping around, but it reduced the noise though. That's what awesome. You just have all these guys running around with these floppy things off the back of their bike.
That's awesome. Bunch of farting
But on
cars.
race day, everyone ripped them off and took off.
Yeah,
You know,
that's funny. Sean, we keep the DEF heated on the fuel trucks. The 336, when you start it up, you hold the starter button and it pumps the DEF up. And when you start, then it will start. When you shut it off, it pumps it back out. So I'm not familiar with the pumping it in, because pretty much every machine I'm familiar with, it's built in accounting for the freezing, and it will not pump it directly. You have about a 30-minute window when you fire up the machine before it actually pumps the DEF and does its first reading. But that is, you do make me think of an important point. So a lot of us, especially us old fogies in the industry that have been around, you're used to shutting off the master switch as soon as you get out of the cab. And you can't do that anymore, especially on machines that have a true master switch, because if you listen, you have to listen carefully. When you shut down a machine that has DEF on it, you will hear the DEF pump running for probably a good 30 seconds after you turn the machine off. And what it's doing exactly what Ryan just said, to account for the freezing so that it doesn't damage any sensors or the DEF nozzle in the SCR. It pumps all of that urea back into the DEF tank. And the DEF tank, if you've ever noticed, they have a fill level on the DEF tank. It's not fill it all the way to the top. You only fill it to the fill level because that tank accounts for the expanding that happens when the urea freezes. And that's why they pump it back in. So if you just go crank the master switch off after you shut the machine down, one of two things could happen. One, if you're in a cold climate and it's going to freeze that night, you will burst those lines, you'll damage your sensors, you'll damage the nozzle. You're talking a shitload of money to fix those. The other thing that will happen is, if you think about your big DEF tank, evaporation is going to happen relatively slowly versus in this tiny, smaller than my pinky finger line. You get a lot more evaporation that happens and a lot more crystallization that happens. You're now past the DEF filter. So if you get crystallization in the line, guess what? Your nozzle's fucked. So that's why it's really important you leave the master on until your DEF pump shuts off when you shut off the machine. It will save you a ton of headache. A lot of the newer machines actually have electronic master disconnects, if you will. And so there isn't a master disconnect anymore. You'll see this kind of little electrical box, and the way you can recognize it is you see the big main cable coming off of your positive battery terminal going into this box, and then it comes out and goes into the machine. That is an electronic master disconnect that is computer controlled, and it waits for the DEF pump to shut off before it automatically disconnects all the non-critical things from the battery. So just more nuggets of wisdom for you guys, I guess. Let's see here. Jonathan, isn't there a law incoming about cars having speed limiter right out of the factory, so when you pass through a 50-mile limit, the car won't go fast even if you floor it? I can't imagine that being a real thing, Jonathan, just because how would you... somehow the speed zone has to communicate that to the car, and we don't have any of that technology in place. So
GPS.
Well, but even there with GPS, let's say you have Texas, they just went through recently and raised a bunch of speed limits. Who's going to go through and update all of the software to make sure that now your car can go 85 instead of 75?
Well, so that is a reality in Japan. They have a limiter on all their new vehicles that limit the cars to 115 kilometers an hour, regardless of where they are in the country. So the cars do have sensors like the GTR, the Nissan GTR, the new one. When it hits onto track property, it then takes those limiters off. So some cars have the ability to flip that off, but hackers, they'll figure it out.
I was about to say, yeah, it's not going to be long before you plug a little USB in there and delete. Sean, yes, you can also shut these machines right off, where the old ones you had to let it run down, or you melt the seals on the turbos. These new machines will actually pump oil. So I wasn't aware of that, Sean, but I do know that some of the newer machines have turbo timers essentially built into them, where you can turn the machine off, you can take the key out, but the machine will continue to run for a predetermined amount of time. I still, just as a practice, as much as possible, will let the machine run for about a minute or so after I've kind of got it into a park position and brought it down to idle, just to let that turbo cool off a little bit. But yeah, and Shane, anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm just laughing at Brandon.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting to it. Yeah, JCB. Everyone's got to bring up JCB. Yeah, what time is it? It's 10 to 9, and JCB still sucks. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Jackson, Shane, speaking of the environment, now that was good, but I thought it was pretty funny last year when that family in California used a firework for a gender reveal party and ended up, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gender reveals. Should we talk about that?
So, well, those two people, they have just finished their court, and they are going to spend time in jail for that.
As they should, in my opinion. If you're that dumb, you should.
I mean,
I'm not saying throw them away for life.
I mean, it is absolutely horrendous that it's happening to a family, a brand new family, and it's. I mean, they'll probably do 90 days and then get out on good behavior or something like that. They'll. I mean,
it needs to be a firm more than just a slap on the wrist. It needs to be a look. You're not going to do this again, and we're going to set an example. No one's going to do this again.
Well, they're going after him for manslaughter because someone died. They had
I didn't realize that.
They had a firefighter die.
I didn't realize that. Oh, man.
Yeah. A firefighter died, and so they're going after him for manslaughter, and that's a minimum of 5 years.
Oof. Yeah, that's one of those things. You have to be smarter than that. Like, you just have. It's like I tell my kids. There's certain things we can't afford the luxury of an oops. Like, you have to be careful from the get-go here. And I feel like, especially as a grown-ass adult, in the height of a drought, why the F would you ever use a firework for a gender reveal?
Well, in California, we are full of idiots.
Yes. He said it. I didn't say it. He's from California. He's allowed to say it.
And that goes for the entire West Coast. Oregon, Washington.
Yeah. I hear you.
It goes all the way up and down.
I hear you.
We're in the situation we're in now.
Yes.
We have idiots running the state.
And that's really unfortunate too, because California is so effing beautiful. I would love to move to Northern California. I have no desire to deal with the people out there.
Yeah, it's so the biggest fire that we've had now that's still ongoing made it all the way from our side of the mountain range, went over the Sierras and made it to Lake Tahoe into Nevada. That's how long this fire's been going. And it went across rocky mountain country where the trees are very far apart and burned across. It's just insane where this fire has gone.
That's insane. So yeah, now we've got everyone fired up over JCB again. Yeah, it is kind of like disrespecting the family. Like, I feel like I should have some guys that will go break the kneecaps of anyone that defends JCB now.
I keep waiting for one to show up on my job.
Oh man. So it's actually become such a thing
guy
now.
Show up and just say, nope, take it back.
I was going to say, it's become such a thing.
Don't even unhook it.
I've got to make a video of me running a JCB just because, who knows, I might actually just erupt in flames as soon as I get in the cab. Well, California is the armpit of America and Portland, Oregon is the taint. That's nice. But I'm going to argue with you because Houston, Texas is absolutely the armpit of America because it is hot and sweaty. In fact, no, I take that back. We're going to say it is the taint because it's got that like hot ball sweat feel to it. Just being out in the streets. So we'll say Houston is the taint of America. I'm good with that.
Isn't it between, was it New Mexico and Alabama?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. Now that I think about it, so further taint territory.
Yep.
Throw the East Coast in there for idiots. Hey, something I have learned in life is idiots exist all over the place. They tend to congregate in pockets, I feel, but at the same time that they're not exclusive to those pockets. So.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember, Californians are leaving California in massive amounts at this point. We are at the first time. Okay, no. We are at the first time in California where the population growth has stopped and started going backwards. The first time in California history.
And they're moving to Boise,
the population
Idaho.
has decreased.
Yeah, they're moving to Boise, Idaho, one of my favorite cities. They're moving to Austin, Texas, one of my favorite cities. Like, they're taking over all these other cities, and it's like, you've destroyed them. You've destroyed them.
I got a buddy up in Spokane, Washington that says, I hate these freaking Californians that are coming up here. They're running up all our housing prices because they're paying cash for everything.
Yeah.
They're outbidding all the local people.
Austin was the same way. So this pissed me off. We had live music venues. Austin, Texas. It was known as the live music capital of the world. We have this subdivision going right up against Nutty Brown Cafe, which is a staple of the community. It's a live music venue. It's been there for the last 30 years, not bothering anybody. And then this subdivision goes in, fills up with Californians, and then they turn around and they shut down Nutty Brown Cafe because the live music was too loud. Come on. Dude, you're the one that chose to move there.
They did that with the Mazda Raceway in the Bay Area. Oh my God, you bought a house next to a racetrack.
Yeah, No. I totally agree with Ryan. We get into the weirdest topics on this show or this live stream, but hey, it's entertaining. Okay, we're gonna do this, guys. We're gonna wrap up here in about 10 minutes because I actually have, in fact, Rick, the guy I always work with, Rick, if you guys aren't familiar, just texted me. I've got an 8 a.m. show update for our job this week, and it is already 9 o'clock here. So 10 minutes, we're going to wrap this whole shebang up.
Oh, you know what? I just found out why your viewership is down.
Why is that?
Dick Nation 21's on. He just said he just got done watching the Broncos smash the Giants.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
You're going up against sports, bud.
That's true. That's okay. I won't fault guys for that. But we do have, we're not doing bad on turnout now. We've got 20 of us in here, so we're doing okay. We're doing all right. So Dig Nation, by the way, Matt, what's going on, man? I appreciate you showing up after the game, even though we've only got 10 minutes left on the stream. I'm sorry. But you chose to watch football. I don't fault you, but it is your own doing here, so. JCB, that's right, Jonathan. Yeah, someone is over there just fuming over my live streams at JCB. It's just, it is what it is. Prove me wrong, JCB. Drop a couple machines out here for Rick and I to put through the test, and I'll give you an honest go. I will. For as much as I've shit all over you, I will give you an honest go. Ryan, it's like people building next to racetracks and airports and then complaining about noise. What did you expect? 100%. That's the same way it was in Austin. We had 4 or 5 huge music venues. Again, staples of the community. These aren't like a music venue that has kind of sprung up in the last 5 years. This is they've been around since Austin really got big. And they came in and shut them down. And it's just oh God, it's so bad. It's so bad. Story time from Shane Quick. Oddest thing you've seen happen. Oh, I'm down with this. Great question, Brandon.
The oddest thing? I don't know that I necessarily have anything that's really odd, other than people driving through our job sites in the middle of the streets, getting out of their car to pick cones up to drive through the cones and into a ditch.
Yeah, it's my turn.
That seemed a little odd to me. Yeah. So I was actually flagging when that happened. An old lady got out of the car, moved the cones out of the way. I had to run from my spot all the way over there. And I had a laborer was in the ditch taping trace wire to the top of the pipe. The ditch was only about 3.5 feet deep. So he's bent down. His back was about asphalt level. And I threw my stop paddle at her and it caught her attention. She stopped and freaked out. And she stopped about 1 foot from the end of the ditch, and the laborer stood up and turned to the left and saw that bumper right in his face.
Man.
It was scary, but I wouldn't call that an odd story.
Yeah, not odd, but still scary.
Yeah, it's just the odd things people think they can do and get away with.
Oh yeah, we had that all the time. We had a job where we had prepped the whole road. We had our paving company coming in, and it was a concrete roadway, so they paved overnight. And when I say pave, I'm talking concrete in this circumstance. We came in the next morning, and there's this set of tracks that starts shallow in the concrete and goes about a quarter mile down the road, just gradually getting deeper and deeper and deeper until you can tell the car just sank. And it turns out it was a bunch of like 19, 20-year-old kids that had been drinking, and they decided to go test out the new section of road. But being the geniuses that they were, they didn't realize they were driving towards the effing paver, and they didn't pick up on the fact that all of this concrete flying up off of their tires onto the car, like that wasn't enough of an indicator that you're on wet concrete. They buried that fucker. It was, I want to say it was like $550,000 worth of like damage by the time you factored in us. We had to go back in as the road crew,
rip it all
pull
out.
all of it out, re-prep it,
rebar and all.
All of it. And then we had to re-prep it, and then they had to come in and repave that entire section. It was just like, are you effing kidding me? People are dumb.
Bad.
People are dumb. Wouldn't be surprised if it had California on the plates.
Oh, wait, you know what? I do have an odd story.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm digging in a street. It's a 4-lane street in town, and we're putting sewer in about 9.5 feet deep. And we have a cone company that comes out, cones the whole road off and everything. People are getting pissed off all day. So as we're doing this project, and we're in a bad area, it's not very prone to good people. So we got this guy, comes down, pulls his white shirt off, walks into the 2 lanes that are of traffic, and starts swinging his shirt around, hooting and hollering. This dude is high on something, meth, whatever, and he's yelling and slapping cars and stuff. We had to stop work and try to get this guy back onto the sidewalk. We finally get him onto the sidewalk. It took us about half an hour to get this guy under control and back on the sidewalk. Within 5 minutes, he's still over there swinging his shirt around, and his minivan comes ripping up, slams on his brakes to a stop. The big sliding door opens. 3 thugs jump out, grab this guy, throw him into the van, and take off. And problem solved.
All right.
Never saw him again.
Probably no one did at the way that story just turned. He's in a ditch somewhere.
Hey, it's just hey, not our problem anymore.
As long
Thank
as
God.
he's not making a mess. Oh man. So Sean, I know a couple JCBs in the 80s. We beat them hard. They lasted. They were less than John Deere by a lot. Hey, you know what? Exceptions happen, Sean. Exceptions happen. Brian, Cole the Corn Star made a video about CTLs and came to the conclusion that JCB makes the best CTL. I just had to shut the video off and debate live for a minute. So I will say this. Cole the Corn Star is not a dirt guy. He's a farmer. And the JCB, I will say this about the JCB machines. They do work really well for farmers because they're not pushing them hard. They're generally using them for, especially with the telescopic arm, those guys are using them to stack hay bales and stuff. Like, that's a pretty solid machine for those guys because it's got the side entry door. So as you get up there in age, you know, your dad or your grandpa can run the skid and they're not having to climb over it and stumble over the bucket linkage and everything. Like, there are a lot of selling points for farmers. But when you're talking the dirt world, it's no contest. Like, we're a totally separate animal. You cannot, and JCB has a nice little cab on their machines. I've sat in them. They're nice little cabs. They're comfortable. They got a lot of buttons and widgets and all, you know. But when it comes to actual usability on a job and whether it's gonna last, JCB, you got some work to do. Slivic, SLI Civic. Oh, there you go. There you go. SLI Civic, T&M job. I'm assuming you're talking about maybe the contractor here in Michigan that does work, T&M. I think it's T&M, but it was Ajax was our contractor. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about with T&M job, but I'm not sure. You may have to expound, unless I'm stupid and that's some acronym that should be totally obvious. Am I missing something, Shane?
Time and money.
I don't know.
Because T&M here means that the time and money that it takes to complete a project.
Oh yeah, good point. Time and money. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's pre-negotiated.
Dead nuts. Yeah.
So.
Oh, I'm sure for Dan's excavating that had to do all the tear out and everything. I'm sure we loved it, but I'm sure that kid's parents' insurance company did not love the bill they got in the mail for it. So.
Yeah. So TM for us on our pipe job that we currently have, we have a rock clause. So when we hit rock, we have a certain window of time that we have to put a effort in on trying to remove the rock. When we surpass that amount of time with either a ripper or whatever, and we have to break out the hammer, after that certain amount of time, we go to T&M and the city pays for it.
And he just confirmed time and money. No, you're good, man. You know how YouTube comments are. You never know what you're actually talking about. So, by the way, one more minute, guys. I'm going to try to get to the end of the comments here. And I apologize if you post something that I don't get to. But as always, I have to shut it down. I'm sorry. So I'm going to get to the end of the comments here. Let's see here. Sean, I had somebody do the same thing, blow the flagger right off, coming straight down towards the ditch. Had to swing my bucket out in front of the road and stop them before they killed someone. We've all got stories like that. I've had to do the exact same thing with my loader bucket, drive out there in front of them and lower the bucket down real quick so they'd stop before going to the job. People are just dumb. They're selfish. It's all about their time. It doesn't matter what else it doesn't matter what anybody else has going on. They need to get where they're going. Let's see here. Ryan, after watching the video, what is life? Yeah, exactly. When someone comes up with the phrase JCB makes the perfect CTL, what do you do with life at that point? I feel like everything's kind of meaningless. I know that he's not using it for dirt work, but still it's like a knife in the back hearing that. Yeah, I hear you. It definitely... Excuse me, pardon me. Seasonal allergies are just destroying me tonight. Yeah, it definitely lowers my opinion of what Cole the Corn Star, which the name all in itself kind of lowers my expectations, but especially if you're recommending JCB equipment as the top of the line. Let's see here. Almost drove me to drink into a drunken stupor right then and there. Yeah, I mean, make it manageable. Pour scotch. Tim Jenkins I had a triaxle dump truck drive around a ramp down into the hole to get loaded. After getting loaded, he drove into the ramp, flipping the truck. That's a topic for another night, and that's how dumb truck drivers are. We'll just save that for another night.
I have several stories on that too.
So we will do this again, and we will do truck driver. In fact, I'll write a note: truck driver stories. Oh my gosh, so many. We need a whole night for that one.
Yeah, no. I mean, and not in my last video, but like 2 videos ago, I got a perfect example of that. Truck driver, basically one of our laborers jumps in one of our bobtails and backing up. I'm blowing the hell out of my horn, and I finally just have to smack the truck with my bucket.
That's the only way to get their attention sometimes. Bam! And then they get out upset with you because heaven forbid you touch my ratted out truck. It's like, dude, this thing's from the 1940s. I can see your feet through the hole in the floorboard, and you're upset that I banged you because you were about to back into the cab of my machine. Like, anyway, like I said, whole other topic of discussion. Let's see here. Does Rick like being filmed on camera? Jackson, he's not opposed to it. It's just, for the most part, I handle the filming. Rick handles kind of the logistics of the jobs. We complement each other well, but unfortunately that means he doesn't get a ton of camera time. I'm trying to change that over time. In fact, I've told him multiple times he needs to go get a couple GoPro cameras and hand the footage over to me so that we can work his perspective in too. I will keep hounding him. See you next week, guys. Yeah, we're gonna wrap her up. So thanks everybody, I appreciate it. Jonathan, thanks for hanging out. It was good talking to you. Ryan, everybody. Shane, by the way, thanks for actually being here this time, and I'm glad it worked out. So
hey, if you guys want to wind down after this excitement we've had here, my video that came out yesterday is a relaxation construction video, so you can go and enjoy some decent
ASMR
music.
Operating, some just nice machine sounds. Yeah, that's nice. So you guys have a great evening. We're gonna flip her over to the end screen. You guys have a great week, and we will catch you next week on the live stream. Have a good one, guys.